Hi, my name is Melanie Amir. I am the director of outpatient at Washburn House, which is a part of the Promises Behavioral Health family. We have created a monthly video series to connect with our community. Our goal through this is to help individuals and families navigate substance use and mental health challenges by sharing useful insight and authentic conversations and have some fun. We know there is hope in recovery, and we want to show you that we can get better together. Remember, everything matters.
Hey, Jess.
Hey, Andrea.
And hello, friends, family. Welcome to episode number 2 for our Washburn Promises podcast. Looks like we made it. Yes.
Barely, but we made it.
So, as promised, we are going to talk to you folks about how we got into the field, how we met, and sort of that spiritual alignment where our paths crossed to bring us right to this very moment. And so I think, Jess, it's appropriate that maybe you start because that's how it all began.
That is how it all began. So, interestingly enough, I didn't remember this till like years ago, but 17 years ago, right? A little over 17 years ago, I walked into my first meeting and I was getting my 24-hour coin. And again, I didn't realize it then, but I met Andrea and she was actually the one to give me my coin. What a gift, huh? And so like, we've been talking about that. And I just think that that's so wonderful because I mean, I didn't know what I didn't know back then. And seeing her give out the coins was so inspirational. And so I'm going to tell you a little bit about how I got in the field. And then Andrea is going to tell you a little bit about how we came together again. And so I had maintained my sobriety for a while and I was graduating college and I had gone to school to become a teacher and I knew I wanted to be a teacher my whole life, but my substance use disorder had said otherwise. And so I remember, working with my sponsor and she was telling me that I needed to pray and I needed to take action, pray and take action. And I was like really mad at her because I was like, prayer and action, what is that going to get me? I'm like, I have no job. I'm graduating college. And so I did what she said, right? Because I oftentimes did what she said for most things. And when I did what she said, things worked out for me. So I said a prayer and I went to a meeting and I talked about it at the meeting because I, was living in the city and I, as much as I, love my hometown in Connecticut, I knew that my supports and my resources were in the city. And so I spoke about that at a meeting. And when I was done speaking at the meeting, this woman comes up to me and she's like, I know the perfect job for you. There's this adolescent program opening up and my neighbor, she runs it and she's desperately looking for staff. And I was just like, okay, like I knew nothing about working in the field. I was totally green. And I got the number and I called it. I went for an interview and Melanie, the woman who does our intro and outro, interestingly enough, she was the director of that program at that time. And she hired me on the spot. And so I was so green. I was so scared. I was so nervous. But what I realized was that, my higher power, the universe, the world, whatever you want to call it, was totally working for me because this is where I'm supposed to be. I've been in this field for 16 plus years and what a gift, right? And so now Andrea is going to tell you about how we met and how she got into the field. And again, there are no coincidences.
Mm-hmm. So around this time, well, it was about a year and a half, 2 years in, right? And I was waitressing. It was my get well job that lasted longer than I thought it would. And so I worked at this particular place that was far enough away from where I had lived, and I'm leaving work and I decide that I want some coffee. And if you were from Worcester, you know that there is a particular coffee shop. I'm not going to say the name because we're not being sponsored.
Not yet. That can happen.
Fingers crossed. So there's a particular coffee shop in Worcester that is on every corner. And so I had bypassed all these particular shops, right? Like I was on autopilot and I went by all these coffee shops and ended up all the way across the city to go get a coffee. Now, normally I would have just gone through the drive-through. This was my ritual, right? It was drive-through, it was quick, but instead my car just automatically pulled into the parking lot and I went in to go buy a pound of coffee. So you're probably like, this is whatever, that's not a big deal. It's a big deal because it was out of the norm, okay? And so it was almost like something else was driving that car. And I go in and I'm behind Jess, and Jess is getting coffee for people that she worked with in this adolescent program. So she turns around and we sort of recognize each other and we make small talk. But we had never had a conversation before, right? And she goes, how's it going? How's your job? Or are you looking for work or something like that? And without even blinking, right? I just was like, yeah, I am. Now, I wasn't. I had job security. I wasn't looking for a new job, but I said yes. And she wrote down a number and said, call this woman, she's looking for help. And it was Melanie, the woman that does the intro outro, who happens to be our boss now, right? And so I made that phone call. I did the interview. I was hired. And Jess and I started working second shift together. And from there, our relationship, not just with each other, but our relationship in the field and with Melanie developed to what it is today. And, the reason I think that it's so important that we share this is, I know for myself, when I came around trying to stabilize, right, I felt like I had no purpose. And I felt like everything in my life was almost like a punishment, right? That maybe I didn't think of it in terms of punishment, but like everything always went wrong. And when you have those moments where you can pause and look at how things lined up, like you said, no coincidences, it's a motivator that maybe we're not being punished. Maybe things are lining up to get us to exactly where we are right now. Right. So, another way to look at it would be, the way that things lined up just prior to you going into treatment. That cop that arrested you, maybe that cop that arrested you had to be the cop that arrested you to get you into treatment, because you trying to do treatment on your own was unsuccessful, right? And we know that the spiritual expressions that are put out there, the universe doing for you what you couldn't do for yourself. I mean, these are things that we hear when we get into treatment, and it's sort of, trying to make sense of that is not easy to do, right? And it wasn't anything that we saw immediately. It was sort of, years away that we saw the connection to us and the job. And
yeah, and talk about coming full circle. So Andrea and I, we worked together for a little while, and then we stopped working together. I had gotten this promotion to be this what they called an aftercare coordinator. I was traveling all over Massachusetts to find these adolescent girls and help them to stay safe and build supports. And then they cut the position. And so I had to leave, I had to leave this adolescent program. And I went my way and Andrea went her way. And then we both continued to build on our careers, right? Like our skills and techniques. And it didn't matter how long we were apart from each other. When we saw each other, it was like right back to what it used to be. Andrea had her first baby and we would have a woman's meeting at her house, and it's like things just worked out and we connected. And so lo and behold, right, I've been working for Washburn House for 3 years. And Andrea, you've been here for 2 years? I don't know.
End of 2018, I came over here. Yeah.
Okay. So, and so go figure, I am, I'm working at a job that I'm running an outpatient program. And, I realized, like, I don't want this. I don't want all the crazy that comes with being in charge. I just want to run groups and work with clients. And so I called the person, Melanie, who I've stayed in touch with this whole time as well, who I've had coffee with every couple of months, and she was looking for a clinician. Go figure, right? So I go meet with her, I interview with her or whatever. She tells me about the program, and Melanie and I are back together, right, after 16 years. And then Miss Andrea decides that, what she's been doing for 5,000 years is it's time for her to move on from that company as well. And we come together and we work together, and it's incredible, like it came full circle. And And I think that something that's really important for me anyway is, you know, as much as this is a job and I need a job for financial reasons, right? So that I can keep a house over my head and all of that, it feels right. You know, like it feels like I'm supposed to be doing this. There's not a day that goes by that I wake up and I dread coming here or doing the work, or, you know, and I'm with my friends. And it's sometimes it's grueling and it's heart-wrenching and it's exhausting, but it's totally worth it, you know. And I believe that I need to have a purpose in life, and this is my purpose. Like, I didn't go to school for this. I envisioned myself being a special education teacher. I had all of these big plans for my life, and you know what, here I am, like a couple more degrees later in this field, right, doing what the universe has intended for me. It's a gift. Super gift.
Like, I mean, it just, again, reinforces, when a door closes, another one opens, or what's the other one? When you find that there's resistance to what you are wanting to happen, it's probably because that's not what's supposed to happen. And when things end up going, smoother, even if it's something that you're like, that's not where I want to be, but things line up for you to be there.
Yeah.
It's
square peg round hole.
Yeah. And it's like, we are so resistant. We think that we know the way that things are supposed to be, but if we just allow ourselves, and it goes along with acceptance, right? If we just kind of allow ourselves to let things unfold, I mean, as humans, I have to have everything labeled so that we can understand stuff, but that it's like, it's blind trust, right? Or blind faith, it's blind trust, not really knowing what's going to happen and just allowing it to do so to see what happens. That's that experience.
And it goes back to our podcast, right?
Yes.
Sitting with the discomfort, right?
Yes.
And just having this trust that it's going to work out. And how many times have we tried to force things that just weren't meant to be, right? And eventually they blow up, whether it be in that moment or years later, we have that hindsight, like, oh, that wasn't supposed to happen. That was me.
Yeah. Yeah. And so how can people apply that, our people who are newly sober, maybe first time experience or just coming back, how can they tie in what we're saying into their experience? Well, maybe you're somewhere and somebody, whether it be a PO or DCF worker or a family member or somebody in your life, is telling you that you have to do a halfway house, right? Versus coming home, and you think being home is the place to be. Because if I just do A, B, and C, right? Well, maybe you're supposed to be at that halfway house, right? And have that experience to understand whatever it is that you're supposed to be experiencing and understanding at that point in your life, right? So instead of resisting, looking at it as an opportunity, and like, sort of like, let's just see where this takes me type of thing. Yeah. So it's part of the process.
Yeah. And I think that just keeping our eyes open to the idea that we are exactly where we are supposed to be in this moment. So for those of you who are sitting, listening, and watching this podcast, it's exactly where you're supposed to be. And there's a message in it for you, hopefully. And just, put your best foot forward, right? And I guess, to wrap it up, I think that, we put our best foot forward, we do the absolute best that we can, and things will fall into place. Right? So remember, be a good human, do the right thing, because everything matters. Everything. Thanks, Anne.
Thanks, Jess. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for joining us today. We want you all to know we are here for you at Washburn House. Join us for our next episode at the same place, same time, to learn about addiction and recovery. If you or a loved one is suffering from addiction or mental health, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. And remember, everything matters.